Hello, this is RICKY, the Android guy. Hey guys, today bringing another smartwatch side-by-side comparison between the Sony Smartwatch 2 versus the Samsung Galaxy Gear. Today we're going to find out which device really is the best smartwatch on the market right now, and let's see between these two. Now with our first category, look and feel, this is usually a very subjective thing, which is of course hard when it comes to watches, which everyone has their own opinions on. Now let's go over the first one, the Sony Smartwatch 2. This device really feels like a watch. And what I mean by that is it feels like a premium watch. You have the metal side on this version, which is the 199 version, and it feels, you know, it's the metallic kind of feel that you expect from a normal watch. Because of that though, it's very heavy, definitely heavier than other smartwatches out on the market for sure, but it has a really nice look to it, very sleek, and honestly very reminiscent of the Nano for the Nano with the wristwatch. It just has that very square-like look to it. With the Galaxy Gear, you have a very lightweight design watch. The material feels nice, very, very lightweight, especially when having it on. The Gear you don't really notice when it's on, when you definitely will notice the weight of the Sony smartwatch. So between these two, I was kind of torn, because with the look and feel category, I give the look to the Sony, but the feel definitely goes to the Samsung. Therefore, I will call this category a draw, and we'll leave it up to your personal preference. Now, when it comes to battery life, this is something that a lot of people want in a smartwatch and don't always get. On the Samsung, you have an AMOLED screen, which definitely gets you a good amount of battery life, and definitely will easily last a full day, pretty much no matter how you use it. However, it will only last you a full day. Even if you put the battery all the way down on low, you are going to at most have 2 days. The Sony smartwatch has typically lasted me about 2 to 3 days. 2 days with heavy usage, 3 to 4 if you're getting light usage really out of it. But 3 days has pretty much been consistent, whereas the Samsung, I definitely do use both smartwatches. So the Samsung I typically get a day out of, and the Sony watch I get typically 3 days out of. Therefore, the battery life on the Sony is going to be better. I do also like that, unlike the Gear, which when you lift up, it'll turn on, that the Sony smartwatch always continuously stays on with their kind of dual e-ink versus LED screen. The one thing that I don't like about it though is with the Gear, as soon as you do lift it up to view, it is ready to use. Whereas the Sony, you cannot use the touchscreen until you power it. So both two different ways of conserving energy. Again though, the Sony does a much better job of it overall. Now when it comes to these two devices in terms of apps, they play really different kind of roles. With the Sony smartwatch, you definitely have a lot more apps. I mean, just out of using it for a while, I would say you easily have close to the 100 marker, if not more than 100 watch apps. So that's definitely a plus for Sony. As we can see, you have a lot of apps. Now, to be fair, a lot of them do the same thing, so that's something to keep in mind. However, although there is a lot of apps on the Sony, I found maybe 5 that I really use and that found to be usable. The Sony smartwatch, if Sony doesn't create the app, the third-party support has been very eh. It just hasn't been that good in terms of quality apps. Whereas Samsung, I would say, has done a very good job of kind of streamlining the apps, so that although the apps aren't as many as Sony, they do have a very good job in terms of having be able to, all the apps being very useful and them working very well. So for that reason, I do think that versus quantity versus quality, I think that the quality is just a lot better on the Gear apps versus the quantity on the Sony smartwatch apps. Now this can be debated, of course, but for this category I feel the quality is more important than quantity. Therefore I will give it to the Galaxy Gear for the apps. For the input method on these two devices, they again become very different. On the Sony smartwatch and on the Gear, you do have one button and then essentially touch screen. With the Sony though, you have a home, a menu, and a back key. However, when using these devices, they typically tend to work one better than the other. So the back key function, the menu button, although it's meant to be like Android, I feel that the navigation is just bland and dull. I wish that Sony had come up with certain features on how to better control this device, which I feel it's one thing that Samsung has done. I like that they just didn't use Android, that they changed the outlook of the device itself. So that if I'm on my watch, I can swipe up from the top and bring up the dialer. That if I can swipe up from the top here, I can actually bring up the camera. So there's a lot of things that I wish that the Sony would have kind of reinvented. Things that, you know, make this device unique, rather than just kind of try to put Android on a smartwatch. I feel that it's a good idea and concept, but when you create a new ecosystem, it just feels better to kind of leave it all to different designs. Therefore, the input method I feel is just better on the Samsung. In day-to-day use, when I've used both of them, I was like, oh man, why can't I just quickly do this? Why can't I quickly do that? I have to remember that there's buttons on the bottom of here, and I cannot stand that when I push both of these buttons, that then I can use the touchscreen, but that I can't use the touchscreen on here without it. I have to push this button first, whereas on the Galaxy, I can lift it up and then immediately start using it. That's something that I got very used to on the Galaxy and was very frustrated that I could not do with the Sony. You have to push the power button before you can touch the screen. Now, one big category that I feel stands out a lot to me is what happens with calling and texting and how these devices both handle them. With the Sony smartwatch, you do not have a mic or a speaker on this device, so when you get a call or a text message, the only thing you can do is do quick replies. You pre-make these in the phone app, and once you do, you actually can respond when you get a text message like, hey, I'm at the movies, I'll call you back. Hey, I'm with a client or a customer, I'll call you back. You can set up those when someone calls you or text messages you. For the Galaxy Gear, you have two different methods. For one, obviously you can take a call and make a call with this device. A huge plus, of course. You have two noise cancellation mics on the side, and then you have the speaker on the back. The noise cancellation on this device is unlike any other Bluetooth I've really used. I could have this on my side, so on the left side, just kind of where my hand is in my pocket, and people can hear me. Not that I'm talking towards it at all, I'm projecting exactly in front of me, and people can hear it very clearly. The speaker, on the other hand, isn't as good as that, but it's still very good. Unless you're in a very crowded area, then you would have to lift it up to your face. Other than that though, in a moderate noisy area, you're going to be fine, and especially when typing up something or in the car. For those purposes, the call responses are very well. For text messages, you can always use S-voice reply, so you can say, hey, I'm at a meeting, or hey, I'm doing that. When you miss a call or reject a call, you still get the pre-done text messages just like the Sony does. So overall, for calling and texting, the Gear is definitely a more valuable asset when getting a call or text message and having a smartwatch. When it comes to Bluetooth, this is actually one thing that troubled me about the Sony. Sony has a older technology on board. It has Bluetooth 3.0, whereas the Samsung Galaxy Gear has Bluetooth 4.0. Now, what is the difference between these two? Well, 3.0 is going to drain your phone battery much more than Bluetooth 4.0 will. Typically, I've seen about a 15 to at times 20% difference in my phone when first using this compared to using this. So it's been very interesting. I had yet to ever see my Note 3 at 20% till I owned this Sony Smartwatch 2. Which again, to have a device that has a very long battery life and have it drain more is kind of frightening. So if you have a device, say like an HTC One or a Moto X that isn't known for having the longest battery life, you are going to have them drain much quicker with Bluetooth 3.0 than with a Bluetooth 4.0 device. Now, compatibility. Well, compatibility is actually very easy. The Galaxy Gear now works with a lineup of Samsung devices, so it can now work with the Note 3, the S4, the S3, the Note 2, and on some other carriers like the Galaxy Mega, and I'm sure other devices will follow, but they're all going to be Samsung. Whereas the Sony Smartwatch 2 works with every Android device, I believe Android 4.0 and above, which is a huge plethora of Android devices. Now, you have to keep in mind, of all these Android devices, you need to have a good battery life because of what we just talked about with the Bluetooth. But in terms of compatibility, there's really just no comparison. The Sony Smartwatch is more compatible with a lot more devices compared to the Samsung Galaxy Gear, which want to stay with only Samsung devices. Now, when it comes to extras, these two devices have really different extras in mind. With the Sony Smartwatch, you have one huge extra, and that is waterproof. You can take this in the pool, swim with it, and you're fine. The Galaxy Gear, I have used it in several instances, such as in the rain, washing my hands, all that kind of stuff, but it is at most splash proof, not waterproof whatsoever. So for that purpose, the Sony is going to be better when it comes to that. The other big advantage I would say that the Sony has in terms of extras is the fact that it has the micro USB part built into it. It's a really nice touch that it has, and I really do like that it's built into it. The Samsung, you have to, of course, have the special cradle that comes with it that has NFC to pair the device. That is one thing that I wish that the Samsung would have built into it, just the USB right built into the device itself. Now, the Samsung, of course, has some extras of its own, namely being the first thing is, of course, the camera, which, although you might not think you'll use, believe me, once you have this device, you will use it. It's very easy to just take some quick photos, and a lot of them don't turn out half bad at all. I'm not sure if the megapixel sensor is definitely better than a front camera that I've seen that are also 2 megapixels. I'm not sure if you would call these an ultra pixel or what the hell it is, but the f stop on there must be really good just because it comes out very good for the photos, and surprisingly so. Other than that, of course, one of the biggest features is, of course, the calling capability. Now, although that is its own separate category, which obviously the Samsung already won, it's something that I could not leave out because in the extras category, calling is obviously going to be a big extra that one does have and one doesn't have. So for that purpose, these two extras these several extras are going to really be a preference, and therefore I'm calling it a draw and choosing to which extras you prefer over the other. Now, when it comes to price point between these two devices, the Sony Smartwatch is going to be the less expensive when it comes to price. With the Sony Smartwatch, you definitely get a device that's really good for $199 for this version, which is the metallic bracelet version, which does a very good job. When it comes to the Galaxy Gear, you're going to pay $299 for this device. Therefore, the Sony obviously is going to be $100 cheaper for getting a smartwatch. So if you just want a smartwatch, it's going to be $100 cheaper for the Sony compared to the Galaxy Gear, making it the better bang for your buck. So now let's tally them up and see who won. When it comes to look and feel, it will be a tie. Overall, I feel the Sony has a better look, whereas the Samsung has a better feel. So it's going to be up to you and your preference on which one you prefer. When it comes to battery life, the Sony smartwatch typically has a 3 to 4 day battery life, whereas the Galaxy Gear has a 1 to 2 day battery life. Therefore, the Sony smartwatch is going to be the longer battery life without needing to charge. For app support, it's a matter of quantity versus quality here. The Sony smartwatch, I really didn't have any apps that I felt like, oh my god, I need to have this app. Even though I downloaded over about 40 of them, it just felt like they were repetitive, and a lot of them did the same thing, as where I found myself installing 2 poker games, 2 snake games, and just 2 of the same kind of app when I just wanted one good one. Whereas on the Gear, although it may not have as many apps, it does have the better quality apps, I would say. I have not had an app that I was like, oh my god, this is useless. Each app that I've downloaded on the Gear has been very useful. When it comes to input method, I definitely like the Galaxy Gear for being a more intuitive touchscreen device. They both have one button on the side physically, but in terms of touchscreen and navigating, the Samsung just did a better job instead of just trying to put Android on a smartwatch. When it comes to call and text, the Galaxy is going to take it, of course, being able to actually take a phone call and not only read a text message, but do a S-voice reply or doing quick responses just like the Sony can and more. Really, overall, the fact that you can do more with your calls and text messages is where the Gear shines. Bluetooth is also going to be an advantage of the Gear over the Sony, having Bluetooth 4.0 instead of Bluetooth 3.0. Therefore, the Galaxy Gear will take that as well. Compatibility is going to be a huge advantage of the Sony smartwatch too. You can make it work with any Android 4.0 device and newer, whereas the Galaxy Gear can only really work with today's latest Samsung devices and nothing else. Therefore, the compatibility is easily going to the Sony smartwatch. Extras category. For the extras, it is really a tie. You have Sony taking the waterproof and built-in micro USB, whereas the Samsung Galaxy Gear has the camera and calling capability. These extras really are very good on their own merit, so it's going to take you to see which one you rather prefer for yourself. And when it comes to price point, we have the Sony smartwatch coming in at $199, $100 cheaper compared to the Galaxy Gear at $299. So therefore, when we add them all up, the Galaxy Gear is the winner. Now, I want to point out that, of course, it depends on which device you really have in the end. If you do have a Samsung device, then you should definitely get the Gear. It is worth the $100 more compared to the Sony smartwatch. However, if you have a G2, Sony smartphone, Xperia Z1, Z, or HTC One, or any other device, you would, of course, want to get the Sony smartwatch. Is it as good as the Galaxy Gear? Well, in terms of these categories, the Galaxy Gear does take it. However, it does depend on you and your uses and practicality for a smartwatch. Hopefully you found this review helpful and see which one you want to get. Please give a like, thumbs up if you did. Thank you for watching. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.